Welcome back to my channel. So for those of you who paid attention last week, I mentioned that I want to start talking about a project that I've been working on recently. So the app that I'm currently working on is called Homina. It is a cross-platform context storage web application. Think Google Context, but open source and not as good. As a beginner programmer, one of the most difficult things to wrap your mind around is how to build an application from start to finish, right? So the entire process. I want to create this series sort of as a high-level overview of what I'm working on so that you guys can get a picture of what it's like week on week to work as a software engineer. So another reason that I want to make videos like this is because I was personally inspired by Devon Crawford's YouTube channel. Devon Crawford was this really huge YouTuber in the development community about 2 years ago. He made these really cool videos with awesome montages of him just coding with really cool background music, and he would show the process as he was making apps and building things that he was interested in. And apparently hundreds of thousands of people got a lot of value from those type of videos. Since I'm already working on projects like this in my spare time, I thought why not just record it and share it with you guys. So why did I choose to build a context storage application? Well, the reason stems from the fact that for the last 6 or 7 months, I haven't built any projects, right? I've just been watching tutorial after tutorial of programming concepts, but I never actually applied them into a real project. And I just got tired of being stuck in analysis paralysis, where I would constantly be trying to decide what to build as opposed to just picking something and building it, right? That's the fastest way to learn, in my opinion. So I just looked on my phone and I decided to just pick any app that I use on a constant basis and just try to build it. So for me, that's Google Contacts, right? It's a really simple concept. You log in with your Google account, you store all the contacts that you need to store, and it syncs it up in the cloud. And what that means is that even if all of your digital devices are destroyed, you can still get all your contact information back just by logging into a Google account. So I wanted to create something similar to that on a simpler level or scope. One of the first things that I had to work on when I started building this project back in March was database design. Up until this point, I had no experience working with databases, especially SQL databases. So what I did was I found this YouTube playlist by Amigos Code where he teaches you the ins and outs of PostgreSQL, right? So I spent about 2 to 3 weeks just learning PostgreSQL, learning the basics of SQL and databases in general. And after those 2 to 3 weeks, I created an ER diagram, which is basically this simple visual way of showing the entities in your database and the connections between them, right? After that, I was able to implement a database of my own using SQL queries that I learned from this playlist. So I'll link it in the description if you guys want to check it out and learn SQL. After building the database for my application, the next thing that I wanted to work on was the UI. So basically how the application looks like and how users will interact with it. To do this, I found this online tool called Figma, which is basically a UI design tool. And I used that to start building the UIs for each page in my application. So like the sign up page, the login page, the contacts page, and everything else that comes with building the application. Here though, I found that I was spending way too much time just optimizing and making the app look super pretty. In fact, I spent so much time and effort just working on the UI design that I ended up getting burnt out and I just didn't want to work on the project. So what happened was I made this Reddit post where I was trying to ask for people's opinions on how to move forward with the project, right? There were a lot of really good suggestions in this Reddit thread. One of the main themes that I found reoccurring in all of the answers was that I should learn to be more structured with my approach. And this was around the time when I started researching into agile concepts. After the Reddit post, I was still feeling a little burnt out. So what I decided to do was take a break from working on the project. Recently though, I've started to pick up the effort and start working on it little by little. One of the problems that I was recently facing was that the project was really convoluted. All of the code and all of the files related to the project were all put in a single folder. There was so much going on in a single folder that I just felt so overwhelmed that I wouldn't even touch the code, right? So I ended up procrastinating a ton this month. So what I decided to do was break it up into 3 different repositories. One for the design of the application, where we would store all the UI design, the database design, anything related to planning or design. The next repository would be for the backend. So basically the server and all the code that is associated with that. The final third repository would be for the front end. So the React application and all of the front end JavaScript code that is associated with that. So after working on that, I found that it was much easier for me to approach the code because everything was kept in separate containers, sort of, and it was all more manageable. So I definitely recommend that if you feel like your code base is overwhelming, definitely try to break it up into smaller parts so that you can focus on each individual problem as opposed to having this giant monolith of an application to work on. So even though I've been working on the project now for more than 2 months, there's so many things that I don't yet know how to do for this project, and that can feel overwhelming at times. But I'm really excited because the reason I started this project was to give myself an opportunity to learn new technologies and to apply them. And I hope that you guys stay tuned for the journey because I'll be sharing devlogs in the future, probably every 2 to 3 weeks, where I update you on my progress and the challenges that I'm facing and the things that I learn along the way. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more.